let me jump in and sort of ask you something as we're talking about. My connection's getting weird. It keeps saying like you're offline, you're online. Let's hope it doesn't do it again. Mike, I was asking Vlad this, our Ukrainian friend, our other Ukrainian friend. There were reports in the press, and when I asked Vlad about it, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Now let's hope this didn't glitch. I'm going to be really pissed if this glitched again. Okay, but you guys can hear me now on YouTube, right? I'm hoping. So, oh God, tell me it didn't crash again. Sorry, hold on. I'm going to wait for the YouTubers to try to get back to me. You can hear me. Okay, good. Okay, good, good. All right. I asked Vlad this, that we'd seen reports that the Ukrainians, senior Ukrainian officials were actually not upset about Trump getting elected because they kind of felt like they knew Biden was never going to come through for them. Biden was going to come through just enough, but not enough. Enough to keep Ukraine from losing, but not enough to help Ukraine win. And they actually were looking forward to maybe Trump shaking things up or whatever. When I asked Vlad, he kind of said, he actually said, yeah. He said, that's because a lot of us kind of do think that Biden kind of fucked us over. And
wait, John, you're glitching for me a lot. I don't know if I'm.
Oh, hang on, because now Yulia can't hear me. How are the rest of you hearing me on TikTok? So we're waiting for the TikTokers now. TikTokers, are you hearing me? TikTokers are hearing me. Does somebody want to plug in the, somebody want to write some messages to Yulia, letting her know it seems to be on her end that you can hear me? Type some messages on the, or I can try to text her too.
I can hear you again. Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah. People were saying they could hear both of us. So you can hear me now? Mm-hmm. They could hear both of us. So not sure why. Okay. So sorry. So I was saying, but that, you can hear me now. Yes. Okay. I was asking Vlad, there was a report that Ukrainian officials were actually not that upset about Trump winning, that they kind of felt like Biden had kind of fucked them over, that Biden did not want Ukraine to win. He didn't want Ukraine to lose, but he was afraid of Russia. And that in the end, they wouldn't win the war if Biden stuck around, so that Trump was a wild card that they were almost looking forward to. I asked Vlad about it, thinking it sounded crazy. And Vlad said, yeah. He said, yeah, a lot of us kind of feel like Biden let us down and maybe Trump will be better.
So I don't think Ukrainian officials think that. Ukrainian officials just understand that, like, unless you kiss Trump's ass, he doesn't respond to anything other like ego, right?
Right.
So,
well, he responds to money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Money and ego, yeah. Yep. So that's the thing. So I think that Ukrainian officials are not happy about Trump winning. They're just sort of like, okay, well, this is the type of like 90s mobster that we know how to deal with.
Right.
Because that's basically what it is, right? Just wrapped in a pretty bow, but he is like a 90s mobster.
That's funny.
Just in America.
Right.
So
now, let me just say, but let me tell people what Yulia's talking about is the 90s when the Soviet Union fell apart and you sort of had a lot of mobsters, mafia types taking over in Russia, and I don't know, in Ukraine as well?
Yeah, but it's sort of like, it's kind of like, you know, Trump runs the country like an oligarch. He runs the country similarly to how Putin does. It's no longer a democracy, it's an oligarchy. Because he puts people in power not based on what they know how to do and whether they're good for the job. He puts people in power based on how close they are to him.
Okay.
Ukrainian officials and Ukrainian people in general know how to deal with this. Because that's basically what we've been dealing with the entire time. So I think they, in preparation for this, Ukrainian officials in general have been like sort of, you know, trying to set the scene to sort of know how to talk to him.
Right.
Ukrainian people know very little about American politics. And I mean like very little. Like, it's similar to, like, we know more than an average American knows about Ukraine. But for me, and talking to Ukrainians in Ukraine about American politics is as infuriating as talking to Americans, an average American, about Ukrainian politics.
But it makes sense. They wouldn't know U.S. politics. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but so that's why, you know, it's a lot of people are kind of like, oh yeah, Biden sucks and Biden like didn't give us enough weapons and Biden drags out this war. So Trump is a wild card. Maybe Trump is going to be good to us, but they like don't know the context with Russia and with everything else. And a lot of like Ukrainian Americans or American Ukrainians voted for Trump because they have this thing that anything that is from the Democratic Party is a scare of communism. Because socialism and all of this.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is wild because Trump is so much closer to communism and like ruling something than Democrats ever will be.
Well, to a dictatorship type thing. Yes. Bigger threat from him than from us, from of an authoritarian government or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so I think that, like, the Ukraine peace plan was Ukraine's victory plan was very geared towards Trump administration winning, because two of the points basically explain to Trump how American businessmen can make money off Ukraine.
Well, okay, can I catch you real quick? There have been some stories, something I've been. Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham, this big Republican senator, friend of Trump, but at the same time, super hawkish on defense, very strong supporter of Ukraine, but he supported Trump, and Trump's going to screw Ukraine. But Lindsey Graham was talking about some minerals or something in Ukraine that are very good and highly desirable, and it was very I want you to explain what those are if you know, but also what is making me curious is I think that's the argument Lindsey Graham is using to try to get Trump to support Ukraine. And I will tell you this, I have repeatedly said jokingly for the last 3 years that, all the North Koreans need to do is give Trump a hotel, or the Russians need to do is give him $1 billion and he'll be theirs. There's an interesting argument of whether Ukraine giving America access to a lot of your minerals might buy us off in the Trump administration. Yeah, and that may be what Graham is thinking of winning Trump over. I think that's what Graham is going to use this as an argument to win Trump over, I think.
Yeah, so there is lithium, uranium, there is gas and oil. I mean, there are a lot of natural elements. Like, so for instance, I think that the reason why Elon Musk has been so buddy with Russia is because he thought if Russia takes over Ukraine, he can take over the lithium.
For electrical vehicle batteries.
Yep, exactly. So, and that's what I thought he wanted to do. He was like, oh, I'm going to help them win. Right. I'm going to do all this stuff and they're going to give me lithium. But it's like, he doesn't understand how Russia functions. Russia's not going to give him anything. Right. So one of the things that I'm also thinking, which is totally conspirology, but hear me out on this, is one thing that Trump never does is pays money back.
Right. Correct.
Never does that. So if Russia helped him win the election with bot farms and all this stuff, then he owes them. He might not owe them money, but he might owe them favors and all this stuff, right? I don't think he wants to pay those back. So if we in Ukraine can offer him a good enough deal in terms of real estate or whatever.
Yes. Buy him off.
He's going to switch. Yep.
Yeah. No. Like I said, I've said this for years as a joke that people ought to bribe Trump and buy him. But in this case, first of all, it's two different things.
There's no other way to deal with him.
And you've got to do it in two ways. One, you've got to bribe the United States government by giving access to what, like I said, lithium. I know you've got oil and gas off of Crimea and stuff. I didn't know if it was significant or anything, but if it is, who knows?
Oil and gas in Crimea it's 800 million cubic meters or 800 billion cubic meters.
How much of it do you still control, or do the Russians now control?
So in Ukraine in general, it's 800 billion cubic meters. Russians control, I think, about half of it.
Okay. So you still have a lot though. That's good. But I would say you buy off the U.S. government by making America a sweetheart deal for our businesses or whatever the hell, and you frankly buy off Trump if he wants a new hotel or whatever the hell he wants. Or you know what? Or you buy off Elon Musk to the degree that Musk stays close to Trump, and I'm not sure that's going to stay long term, but it might.
I don't think that's going to stay. It's already seeming like it's not staying.
Yeah. Elon's annoying, and yeah.
The was when people were, especially the MAGA Republicans were talking about how great this is. It's these are two egomaniacs. Right. This is not going to work.
Exactly. Right. Well, and the best part was all the stories going on about Elon claiming, the staff saying Elon thinks he's a co-president, which Trump will not like. And Elon keeps telling everybody he's the reason Trump got elected. You want to see Trump explode? Trump read those articles and got furious when he saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, ego. He's a huge egomaniac. And it's if Elon Musk says something remotely like that or acted remotely like that, Trump's not going to like that.
Right. But so how are Ukrainians feeling right now?
I mean, a little better than I guess like it was before the election. It was a lot of doom and gloom, and now it's sort of like, I think there was this. It's like everybody obviously knows that it's not like something was going to happen the next day or something like that, or things were going to change immediately. But at the same time, like I think there was this like doom, as in like if Trump gets elected, everyone immediately is going to start dropping us because everyone is going to prepare for that.
Right.
Like how there was this rhetoric of like European leaders being like, oh, well, maybe we should talk to Putin. And that started happening like 3 days after he won.
Right.
So that added to the doom and gloom. But then like everything stabilized a week later. And I guess we started getting more weapons and more packages. And everyone started sort of scrambling. And we sort of realized that Europe does care and Europe can't afford for us to lose by any means.
Right.
So it's better. I would say it's better. I mean, right now, blackouts are not horrible. At least in Kyiv, they're sort of like, 2 to 4 hours daily. After that one shelling.
Right.
Sorry, I'm recovering from bronchitis, so it's really hard for me to speak cohesive sentences.
No, you sound okay. You sound fine.
Take a breath,
Yeah, you sound okay though.
Yeah, but it's like it comes at with significant pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cold. It's snowing now.
Yeah.
The first snow fell yesterday.
We saw pictures. They were all over the internet. They were pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty to look at it. It's not pretty to exist in it.
No.
Especially when you're sick.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like, I think I think the mood right now is fine because, like, again, blackouts are not that bad.
Right.
Things are not nearly as bad as they could be.
Right. I mean, again, I've been telling people on the show, we're reading reports. Well, I don't trust the Russian updates on what's going on the war front, but there were some, I think the Brits yesterday kind of said that they were getting worried about the Ukrainian front and all of that. So, I mean, there is definitely growing concern here about that. Officially, the Brits wouldn't have said it. Although I do kind of wonder if the Brits weren't saying it to try to put a little pressure on Zelensky for something. I don't know what. I mean, they keep complaining. You guys haven't called up enough men. I don't know. But there's concern about the amount of equipment and manpower the Ukrainians have right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is a war of attrition, right? And like, we definitely haven't been using as much equipment as we've kind of been storing as well. Like, I think that a lot of things are not necessarily being said on air because we are sort of like planning ahead in a way.
Right.
We understand what circumstance we're in. And it's sort of like, I think that there is a lot more background work that isn't being aired. Like, we have some supplies, right? We definitely need a lot more manpower and we definitely need a lot more equipment, but we're also kind of like, we understand that we're in this for a long game and that we're in this stage of this war where we either push them and win or they push us and win.
Right.
So it's not necessarily like as bad as it might seem, I guess.
Actually, trying to be positive kind of asked a question, I think. But it's funny. I forgot to even ask you because this has been like my bête noire all week. I don't freaking care that Putin shot the damn missile yesterday. I really don't. I think he's a liar. I think everything he says is psychological warfare. I was telling folks before you came on, I don't think you were here yet, that there was an interesting defense analyst today. I think it was a woman I was reading on Twitter, but she was saying that basically, Putin's trying to create a big scare about, oh my God, this rocket we fired, it's new and it can launch multiple bombs simultaneously and this kind of crap. And most people don't know the Russians have had that capability for 50 or 60 years now. They've had weapons that can go much farther than that missile for at least 40, 50 years, at least. Yeah. And the multiple reentry bombs where it can have multiple bombs break off, that's been around, somebody Googled for me, since 1968. I don't freaking care about anything Putin did this week. Are any Ukrainians feeling like things are ratcheted up? Or do you agree with me where I'm just kind of going, people, stop worrying. This guy's a liar. And frankly, it's a sign of his weakness that he's blustering like this.
I mean, are we scared? No, we like literally don't care. First of all, like I was talking to people in Dnipro and a lot of people actually made a video about it. And a lot of people are commenting like, it's good that people think it's so scary. But to us, it's not even scary because we're so used to it. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's one missile, if it's six separate missiles, or if it's one missile that like.
Right, or a new bomb or an old bomb. It's a bomb.
Yeah, like we're also so freaking used to it. It's like, it's kind of like a clockwork. This air alert actually happened when I was getting my makeup done for for an event that I needed to go to while sick.
Right.
And me and we were like, oh, ballistics, okay. So we went to the car garage and just sat there for a while and then went back up. It's sort of like whatever happens. Like, it's not necessary. It's not scary. Also, the thing that pisses me off about it, right, is that it was genuinely an intercontinental ballistic missile that they literally took nuclear warheads off of,
right,
and adjusted the range to be smaller.
Right.
They have 8,000 of these. They're
Right.
called Rubiež. And the Western countries are like, oh, no, it's okay. They said it was a medium range ballistic missile, so it's really not that big of a deal. Like,
right.
No, it was a Rubiež intercontinental ballistic missile that they took the nuclear warheads off of, renamed it, like literally decided to give it a different name, Areshnik,
Right.
and shot it at Ukraine.
Right.
The problem is that it's the first time in history that a country used an intercontinental ballistic
Yes.
missile against a country.
Yes.
And we are minimizing it in the West as in like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's just the same thing that happens to Ukraine every day. And it's like, well, first of all, no, it's not. Second of all, how is this just, a normal Monday for you? Third, like, Russia lied about this, and Russia also, if it was the same missile as per usual, Russia wouldn't have to let America know 30 minutes in advance, fearing American response.
Oh, I mean, look, we know it's a missile that is used for nuclear weapons. I mean, we know that. So it's, and actually, but I would argue what Yulia's talking about is the Russians called up the Americans 30 minutes before the flight and said, we're launching this rocket. It's a nuclear rocket, but it will not have a nuclear bomb on it, because they were worried that we might think they were launching a nuclear attack, which a couple things going on here. One, the Russians were afraid of causing a nuclear confrontation with America, right? They've been talking not just all week. They've been talking for 3 years like they would love a nuclear war with us, right? They were afraid of a nuclear war. Two, I'm forgetting what the second point was, but that was the main point about why they told us, because they didn't want one. They're afraid of one.
That's what I was saying.
Wait, Julia, sorry, wait, let me finish. The second point, why are the Russians afraid of a nuclear fight with, or not of a nuclear fight? Why are the Russians, they're not just afraid of a nuclear war with America. They were afraid that America would think Russia was launching a nuke at Ukraine. We were told all along that, well, but if they attack Ukraine, maybe it's different, right? If they attack America, then it's war. If they use a nuke on Ukraine, maybe we'd let them. The Russians seemed to think that they needed to let us know they were not launching a nuke at Ukraine, because it looks like we must have threatened them pretty seriously behind closed doors and said, if you launch a nuke at Ukraine, we're going to literally go ballistic. So I think a lot of this was actually good news, what we saw from the Russian side, actually.
That's what I was saying in my video, too. It's like I was saying, one thing that we learned from this is that Russia is scared of the U.S.
Yeah.
No matter how much people are trying to make it seem like Russia's not scared of anything, Russia's scared of the U.S. response.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't let the U.S. know, the U.S. would think it's a nuclear fucking warhead.
Yeah.
And the U.S. would react, and Russia would be done.
Yeah.
Russia doesn't want a confrontation with the U.S.
Bingo.
But then that also teaches us another thing, is that the U.S. knows that Russia is scared of the U.S.
Right.
And the U.S. lets it happen.
Oh, absolutely. Well, but
the whole politics of non-escalation with Russia.
Yes.
Russia's not going to escalate with you.
Right.
Russia's scared of you.
Right. But we're scared of the, but Biden was decently scared of Russia. Trump and his people are terrified of Russia, but that's also because it's a bit of a cult. I mean, Trump has said Russia good, allies bad. So now all the Republicans who used to hate the Russians now love the Russians. And, it's the only good news about that is it's such a cult-like behavior that it should be able to turn around quickly if he's gone. But.
I honestly, I think that his policies are so bad that I don't think he's going to be staying for a long time. I think his own party is going to push him out.
Trump, you think?
Yeah.
Why? Because maybe the economic stuff. What do you mean? Why do you think that?
I think because the economic stuff, because if he's actually going to try and impose all the things that he's talking about,
right?
He's going to tank America.
Economically, yeah. I mean, he's talking about massive tariffs, which is going to be massive inflation. He's talking about kicking out all the people who are here illegally, which is going to cause real problems. Yep. Yeah. Which is going to be,
Exactly. It's like billions of dollars.
Well, and the business leaders are saying, a lot of business leaders are saying two things. One, Walmart came out this week and said they may have to raise prices if Trump goes ahead with his tariffs, so that Trump's tariff policy will literally cause inflation. The other thing is a lot of, and this isn't liberals talking, this is business leaders. A lot of business leaders have said that they're concerned about Trump's policy to kick out people here illegally. And I will say this, people know this, I'm a little more hawkish on immigration. I don't have a lot of sympathy for anybody here illegally, frankly, but the business leaders are worried because we so rely on these people in our economy that if we kick out the illegals, the price of doing business is going to go through the roof. If you can only hire Americans for jobs as waiters and everything else, we're talking 2 and 3 times the price. And they're
And also illegal immigrants pay taxes because they know that the only road to ever get an American green card or citizenship or legalize themselves is if they have been paying taxes.
Yeah.
There is this thing with the American immigration system that if you're illegal and you marry an American citizen and you have been making money but not paying taxes, they're most likely going to reject your application.
Right.
But if you have been making money and paying taxes, then you are an upstanding alien.
Right.
So like then you have the ability to apply for it.
You know what, Yulia? I just realized. Let me interrupt you 1 second. Misha, by the way, I don't know if you know Misha. Misha is one of our wonderful members on YouTube who is a Russian married to an American for many years and just became a U.S. citizen. And they're now living in, I think, Ohio. Maybe I always forget. But Misha was asking who you are, and I realized I hadn't introduced you. Oops. Yulia is I'm going to explain this and maybe she can say it better. She is a Ukrainian journalist, also, I would say like podcaster, social media type like I am, political analyst. She's had been living in New York for something like over a dozen years, I think. So really knows American and doing this kind of work. So really knows American politics, but she's Ukrainian. So she really knows the Ukrainian side too. Am I missing anything in a general sense here?
No, I'm a reporter now in Ukraine. I've lived in America for 14 years, in New York specifically, and then 10 or 11 months ago, January 1st, I moved to Ukraine, to Kyiv, and I've been living here ever since. And I try to report from here and do things on the ground. I also work with Ukrainian publications, trying to Ukrainian media, trying to kind of mend the bridge of how Ukrainian media talks to English-speaking audiences.
Yeah. There we
have it.
Yep. Okay. There you go. Sorry, but it's true. I mean, I realize because like our regulars know who you are, or some of the TikTokers, of course, because you're very active on TikTok and YouTube as well. Any case, so I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought that was a good point. I didn't sort of tell anybody who you were. So anyway, where were we, guys? So we were talking about Putin's threats, all of that BS. I don't know, questions from people maybe? Although it always takes a second for that to kick in, but let me throw that out there at least. Tap John's face. What?
People are very sweet.
I know. Well, I'm also trying to look and see about the questions and stuff here. I mean, so what do you think of Putin's threats? Am I too? Well, let me ask you this, because to some degree, I'm hearing in your voice that you're agreeing with me that Putin's full of shit, but you also feel like this was a significant escalation, Russia firing this rocket this week. So I'm hearing a little more concern out of you than I've got about them firing this rocket.
No, so it's not concern. I think it's just more like, it's more of just like, where is the limit, right? Because like we constantly keep hearing from the US that like, oh, we are very concerned and we are expressing our utmost like disappointment in Russia. But it's like, oh, if Russia strikes an American embassy, or if like a rocket debris hits an American embassy or a European embassy, then we'll do something, right?
Right.
Oh, if Russia launches tactical nukes, then we'll do something. Oh, if Russia launches like intercontinental ballistic missiles, then we'll do something. It's sort of like, you know, when those drones were falling in the territory of European NATO countries, and they were like, it's just Ukrainian air defense rockets.
Right.
Like, no, it's not. It's a fucking Russian drone. Like, stop.
Right.
Just say that it's not enough for you to do something, right? But don't lie.
Right.
Like, stop saying we're going to launch an investigation and then just like take the investigation under the veil of nothing for like a year.
Right.
So to me, this is just so annoying because, again, firing an intercontinental ballistic rocket that is capable of carrying nukes is a lot more serious than the KHs and whatever the fuck they have been firing, pardon for cursing.
See, and I'm not,
every day.
see, but I'm not convinced about that. I really am not. No, and you know this. I say this as somebody who obviously cares about Ukraine, so I wouldn't be flippant about it. I think it is a terror campaign. I think quite literally, first of all, you know that. I mean, Julia, I'm not going to say, I'm going to say something for the rest of you. Julia knows this. Putin wants you to think he's going to use a nuke. That's why he's using a rocket that typically has nukes. It means nothing. It means nothing. But I think it means absolutely nothing. So what? Because I'm inside the guy's head. The guy goes, I need to freak you out. And I've said before, he's going to do everything short of launching a nuke to convince you he's going to launch a nuke. And one of the things he does is he will say duds using the rockets that typically have nukes without nukes on them. And to me, I couldn't give a flying fig that the guy's going to send rockets that are normally used for nukes. I don't know. I just feel, because I think he's fucking around.
No, I super agree with that. Like, I absolutely agree with that. What I'm trying to say is that for him, it was a show of power.
Yes.
Per usual.
Oh, yes.
The same as like with drones flying into like countries that are in NATO, right? Like they go in for like, I don't know, 30 seconds and they turn around.
He's dicking around. He's dicking around.
And it pisses me off that every time he does, we are like lying about it. It's like,
fair enough.
Like, oh, no,
fair enough.
It's a mid-range missile. Like, no, it's the F9.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
With the nukes taken out of it.
Right.
Just say it the way that it is.
Right. No, fair enough. I think, then let me rephrase this. I think it is a big deal that Putin keeps suggesting he's going to nuke Ukraine because that's what he was doing with the rocket this week. He's lying, however, which is why I say it's not a big deal because he's clearly lying. But it is hugely irresponsible and hugely immature of a government to talk about nuclear weapons as much as the Russians do. It is, I always tell people, it is akin to like a 13-year-old boy, the way these guys talk about politics. It's like an immature child. And that worries me because I do, having said that, I always tell people, I think Putin's actually quite rational. People say, oh, I think he's crazy and he would use nukes. Do you think Putin's crazy or do you think he's evil, but is he quite rational?
Well, I mean, I think he's irrational enough for like a demented 80-year-old, you know? I think the thing is that he's irrational at his core. He's a KGB agent. He's just maybe, I can't necessarily call him rational because a lot of the things that he's done in the past are just like very stupid. And like in this past 2.5 years, clearly he's not like at his best, right?
Interesting.
I think at the core, he's rational. I think now he's old and making a lot of mistakes, and he's also kind of scared for his life because obviously there are lots of people around the world. He no longer has the status he had.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't say he's crazy as in like he's not like a hot-headed like, mess. He is egotistic. There are certain things that I think can set him off. But yeah, at the core, he's rational.
Are you concerned that
a lot of very rational decisions now because he's just very old and kind of not the sharpest.
Do you have any significant concern that Putin could use nukes?
Not even.
Okay.
I don't have any insignificant concern.
Well, no, because I don't want to be flippant about it. Because if somebody asked me that, I'd say, well, I mean, there's always concern, I guess, but I think it's pretty laughable on its face, pretty much, and you seem to as well. Okay, yeah.
No, I mean, like, I don't. It's not that I have any significant concern. I don't have any insignificant concern.
Okay.
About that.
Okay. So you agree on that front, yeah. I mean, you're there, so I don't want to dismiss it, but I've been trying to sort of tell people all week and for the last 3 years as well, don't believe this guy. Literally, it is one psychological game after another because they know they can't win against certainly NATO militarily.
He would have used a nuke. It's sort of like the same way as the U.S. says, like, oh, if they hit this, then we'll do something. If they hit that, then we'll do something. It's kind of like Putin is like, oh yeah, if there's going to be Ukrainian drones in Moscow, then we're going to use a nuke.
Actually, you know what?
Then we're going to use a nuke. He uses that in order to avoid. Avoid it. It's basically he's using that to deter the West, giving Ukraine what Ukraine's asking for.
You know what? I never thought of it this way, but it's the same argument people make to us. And usually it's the trolls in the comments, but they love to say, You just wait. Russia hasn't even begun to fight. You wait until Russia really tries to fight. And I'm like, 3 years into this war, 700,000 Russian casualties. If they haven't tried to fight yet, then Putin ought to be thrown out of office. But on the nuclear front, I never thought of it that way, but it's kind of the same thing. If the Russians aren't afraid of using nukes and the Russians think the nukes will change everything, then why the hell haven't they used them in 3 years?
Exactly.
What are they waiting for?
Exactly.
If you're not afraid and you think it'll make a difference, it's criminal that you haven't done this, so to speak.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
Ah.
No war has been declared. All right.
Yeah.
David.
And the Korean War hasn't ended in 70 years or whatever. So yeah,
World
true.
War II hasn't ended because Japan and Russia never settled the Northern Ireland.
Oh.
The Northern Islands.
Right. Oh, the Sakhalin thing.
Ireland.
Yeah.
Sorry. 20 years from Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland. Yeah. That too.
World War II.
That too. What else? I'm trying to look at the.
Russia also absolutely understands that, like, if NATO wanted to fight, then Russia could not take up NATO. That's all.
Say that again. Sorry.
Like, Russia also understands that if NATO wanted to fight Russia, Russia could not take on NATO.
Correct. If Russia, I always say this: if Russia went to war with us, we'd win.
Stupid, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're not stupid. Like, you know, it's like
Right.
we look at them and we look at their stupid TV and we're like, oh, they're so dumb. They're not dumb.
Right.
They just know that, like, the more, like, outworldly stuff you say and the more contradictory stuff you say,
Right.
the more of it is going to stick.
Right.
But none of them actually believe this in their hearts,
Right.
or in their minds. They're just saying it because this is a strategy.
Right. Michael is asking a question which might be a little premature, but still interesting question. How will Ukraine rebuild?
There are lots of countries investing into the rebuilding of Ukraine, right? Like, I think they're even, it's actually a story that everyone, like, kind of glossed over a while ago.
Huh.
But different regions of Ukraine had different countries kind of, like, commit to rebuilding them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be, like, investments from different companies in different countries based on like, the region.
Like the Greeks, I think promised to rebuild the Greeks or the Italians promised to rebuild the theater in Mariupol. There were like different governments like that. There were these city-to-city connections or whatever. Yeah.
I also honestly, like, as a person who, like, pragmatically, I think there's going to be a lot of foreign investment, and I think a lot of foreign people are going to make a lot of money.
Right.
Because we also need a lot of apartments and a lot of, like, places for people to live, right, that have been bombed out and stuff, and, like, someone's going to build them. Yep.
Now, I want to ask again, just because I think I'm forgetting which one here. I think it's Matt Man. I think you were the one that wrote this, and it's typical of a lot of people I read, is still just very anxious and nervous, and all the stuff Putin's doing this week has made people really freaked out. What do you say to that to calm them down?
Putin has been doing the same stuff over and over and over again. It's like, it's the same shit, different font, right? He's not doing anything new. Like, yes, he signed a nuclear doctrine that's different. Since when has anything that Russia signed actually meant anything? Right. Like, Russia is not doing anything that Russia hasn't been doing for the past 2.5 years. Listen, if we in Ukraine are not sitting here, pardon my French, shitting our pants, neither should you.
Right. Actually, let me mention the nuclear thing. So Russia this week, in response to Ukraine using American and British weapons to fire inside Russia, changed their nuclear policy. So now it's easier for them to fire nuclear weapons. Does anybody out there really think Vladimir Putin, if he wanted to use nuclear weapons, some Russian government official would say, Mr. Putin, I'm sorry, the law says you're not allowed to use those nuclear weapons. Does anybody really think that somehow on Thursday, the law changed and Putin was finally free? Because he's never had the power before, but now he finally has the, you know what I mean? Like, this is not,
they've done this before.
It's all bullshit.
Like, you know how they've done this before. Like, there is this program under which, like, countries with nuclear weapons are supposed to share, like, the amount amounts of nuclear weapons they have, like their new inventions and stuff like that. Russia got out of that program like a year ago, and they were like, we no longer will support this, we don't care. They already said that they're not going to re-sign the nuclear non-proliferation treaty.
Right.
Like, they've done this. It's not the first time they do something like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Irish is saying, I have a Ukrainian lesson with my tutor in Kyiv. She has no anxiety. It is what it is. I mean, and obviously a lot of Ukrainians are worried. That's a different question, right? Because where this war is heading, who knows? Lately, Ukraine hasn't been doing as well. The U.S. possibly cutting off aid under Trump is a big deal. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried. But Putin nuking Ukraine isn't one of them, I think.
Yeah,
or us, even less so, going after us.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally anything. Like, we're worried about where the war is going. You're correct, and like what's it gonna be like in 2025? Because obviously we don't want to live in open air concentration camps under Russia,
right?
And sing the Russian anthem, you know. But like Putin nuking anyone, not one of our worries.
Right. Yep. And again, if they nuked us, it would be World War III, and they would lose. We'd lose too. But what people keep somebody again wrote there's this new defense analyst woman I'm following on Twitter who's really good, and she's British, I guess, and she was saying, she goes, my partner's American family. One of the family members weighed in at a holiday recently and said, it's like the Russians don't get that we've got nukes too. And that's the first thing. Like, they're not going to start a nuclear war with us because we will nuke them back. Period. It's not going to happen.
Sorry, there's someone saying, tell us about how censored you are there in Ukraine. Oh, I'm not censored. For instance, I work on Ukrainian television, and I personally dislike a lot of Zelensky's policies. Is he my favorite president? Absolutely the hell not. Do I think he's a good president for this war? Yeah, he's a good actor, and he's in his right place. A lot of people worldwide like him. Do I personally like him as a person? Maybe he's a nice guy. As a president? Not really.
Interesting. Why not as a president?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm trying to prove to whatever troll that is that we have free speech here.
Yeah.
Because I could literally say anything the fuck I want to you. But also, I mean, I think his external policy is very good, and he's in the right place. His internal policy has always been bad, whether it was before the war.
Okay. Okay. That's a different, right. And we don't follow domestic politics, obviously, in Ukraine. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like a lot of people domestically are really pissed off at him, but we also realize that like our domestic politics unfortunately has to wait, because right now we are dependent on our international politics, and he's good at that. Right. And it's like his approval ratings worldwide are better than his ratings in Ukraine.
But it's important. He's been an important figurehead, important salesman for Ukraine. Yeah. You know, I mean, I don't think you could have done better as far as that goes. How he runs the war, I don't know. But it's how he's worked the world, very important.
Not sort of like, I mean, I think it's mostly like, it's not necessarily him, right? Like, it's his cabinet. It's the people around him.
Right.
I think they're the people that are a lot more qualified in terms of making these decisions, and they're like, obviously, you know, advising him and stuff like that.
Right.
And there are a lot of things that are not being like done correctly, but also it's like hard to do when you're at war and defending yourself. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like living in New York. It's a love-hate relationship.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But my point is that it's like, you know, all of these trolls, for some reason, always keep saying that we have no free speech because we say all of this like amazing stuff about Zelensky. It's like, we do have free speech. We criticize the shit out of him.
Right.
He knows we don't like him.
Right.
Like, he knows we don't like his internal politics. It's not a secret.
Right.
But the thing is, internal politics is not just like, is probably not even in, it's very insignificant compared to external politics right now.
Syndicate, you know, our moderator and friend, asked, he said, when we talk about rebuilding, do you guys think the countries that have sent money to Ukraine are going to want something in return?
Probably. I mean, they're going to want a relationship with Ukraine, but that's normal, right? Like, I think they're going to want a relationship.
But they may want access to your minerals. They may want investment advantages or something. I don't know. Oil.
Yeah. Like, I don't think anyone's going to
but that's normal.
Blackmail us over it. But I think it's sort of like they know they're going to be priority and consideration for giving out those contracts.
And they should, frankly. I mean, that's the nature of international relations is I always sort of tell people it's very Machiavellian in the sense that, you know, I may be doing this because I care about Ukraine and really don't like the Russians, but if I were a policymaker, I would not be doing it for that reasons. I would be helping Ukraine because I think it's in America's national interest to help Ukraine. And that also means getting something for America out of the deal. And there's nothing wrong. People used to drive me crazy when they were talking about like the Iraq War, the first Iraq War, not the good one, not the bad one. The first one when we saved Kuwait. And people were like, it's blood for oil. We're there because of oil. And I was like, God damn right we're there because of oil. Are you insane? Like, we want Saddam Hussein taking all the oil fields in Saudi Arabia? That would be the end of the world. Of course we're there for oil. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing things in following your national interest.
Yeah, but it's because, like, you know, people have this, like, weird idea, not weird idea, but it's kind of like these sort of like justice fighters on the internet, right? It's like two things can be true. You can be doing this because you want to help Ukraine, but also because you understand that it's going to benefit you in the future.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's the nature of international relations is countries, we elect our government to look out for our interests, not the Ukrainian interests. So, and I'm not just saying for Ukraine, but governments, people want their government to look out for their interests. So if we're spending a lot of money and time and effort helping somebody, we expect to be helped back. On a personal level, that's rude. On an international level, that's expected.
Yes.
So, whereas with a friend, it would be rude. Yes. So.
Yeah, with a friend, it would be rude. And like, in a situation of international geopolitics, not rude.
No, because it's almost like it's a business deal. Although it is friendships. I mean, obviously we're friends with the Brits, but still, it still is a business relationship we have with them as well. Frankly, even if it's not business, it's military. What else, guys? Getting late there in Ukraine. I want to keep Julia all night. She's also making me. And she's making me look bad because it's 2:00 in the morning, and now she's actually doing an interview with me when I refuse to do one with the guy from the British news outlet.
So I don't know if you can see my dog.
Oh yeah.
But the reason why I was staring there.
Oh yeah.
Because I turned around, and this is the picture I'm seeing.
Oh, what does he want?
Yeah, I think she wants a walkie because I'm still awake, and I'm like, this is.
Oh, funny. Well, it looks like she's like quietly asking you for either food or to go out or something.
Yeah, I think she's talking about a walkie, but she's been in a walkie, and it's like way too late for a walkie.
2 in the morning. I know, like, no.
I don't know if you've seen this, but we have an addition to our family.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Little bulldog or Frenchie?
Yeah. I have 2 bulldog now.
Very cute. Very cute. That's funny. I like she got to get up a second and went, yeah. Very cute.
No, these are 2 different bulldogs. One's completely passed out. The other one is like, hello.
Let's go walk. What else, guys? Maybe a couple more questions, and then we'll let Yulia go, and maybe we'll end shortly as well. But what else? How are her teeth? Yulia's teeth look good to me. Kidding.
I think maybe bulldog teeth, like baby bulldog teeth.
Do bulldog teeth have issues?
No, but dog, like puppy teeth, they're shark teeth.
Oh, is it a puppy?
Yeah, she's 7 months old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're gonna be very sharp. Yeah. Actually, Aubrey asked a good question. I will rephrase it. What do you respond to people who are concerned about corruption in Ukraine? What's your response to that?
So the thing is, you're hearing a lot more about corruption in Ukraine because people in Ukraine as a society actively try to fight it. So when we see corruption, we don't stay quiet about it. Also, like, yes, as every post-Soviet country, we have issues with corruption. But the thing is, the reason why it's not something to worry about in Ukraine is because our society is anti-corruption.
Okay.
And we don't want neither our people nor our elected officials to participate in corruption. So we call it out and we fight against it. In a lot of countries where corruption is smaller than this or at the same level, it's the people who also want to indulge in it.
Right.
So they don't fight it. But in our society, I would argue it's less of a problem than in a lot of societies because we actually actively call it out. We actively fight against it.
Right. I would also go one step further, and not further, but a different point, which is often the argument is brought, or the question is brought up about whether Ukraine is corrupt or not. as a way of suggesting we shouldn't be supporting Ukraine. And this is where my Machiavellian side comes in again. I couldn't care less if Ukraine's corrupt. We need to stop the Russians. If we don't stop the Russians in Ukraine, they're going after Europe next. I support Ukraine, among other reasons, because I want to stop World War III from happening, which I think could happen if Russia wins in Ukraine. So therefore, it doesn't matter to me if Ukraine is Satan at this point. I want to stop World War III. So my enemy's enemy is my friend. Having said that, on the list of corrupt countries, the transparency list, I think it's transparency.org. I'm forgetting now. I think it's called that. And it's the big international organization that lists countries of corruption. Number one least corrupt might be Denmark, I think. US is further down. Sorry, was it Denmark?
I think it's Denmark or like the Netherlands or something there. But also someone is saying Ukraine was the most corrupt country in the world.
No, Ukraine. Let me tell you, Ukraine was approximately 104 on the list. Russia was 140 on the list. Number one means not corrupt. 180 means super corrupt. Russia was 140 towards the end of the list. Ukraine was around 104, which is still not great, but it's way better than Russia.
But Ukraine is now...
And better than Turkey, by the way. You were better than Turkey.
Yeah, Ukraine also moved up. Like Ukraine's way better now. I didn't check the rating, but it's like actually we've like dropped significantly, as in like corruption levels dropped significantly. Also, there was this other thing that I wanted to respond to, which was, Ukraine is probably the least corrupt post-Soviet country. Probably. How pro-Ukraine is the occupied territory? What the kind of question is
Well,
that?
no, but actually the Baltic states are probably less corruption too, probably. I would bet. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, but I guess we're talking about like the ones that are not in the EU right now.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so someone is asking like how pro-Ukrainian are occupied territories, but they're Ukrainian, they're occupied. What are you talking about?
Well, no, they're trying to say the Russian argument of, well, people in Elon Musk's argument, people in the Russian-speaking portions of Ukraine were much more pro-Russian. Like they're not as pro.
The Russian-speaking portions of Ukraine serve in Azov.
Right, which is tell people what that is.
Azov is one of the most combat-ready elite assault units in Ukraine that Russia has dubbed to be Nazis.
The Russians hate them.
A little too effective.
Right, the Russians hate them. Yeah.
Sorry, Yazis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A little too effective in fighting Russia.
Right. Right. Well, and I think, but more generally, though, tell people, because I think certainly as Americans, yes, a lot of people speak Spanish in this country, but we do have a national language, even though we don't. Our national language is English, even though officially it's not, it is. And we bristle at people who don't speak English, frankly. What I mean by don't speak English, I mean, yeah, you're an immigrant, your English isn't as good. It is expected that you learn English. Like it's just, that's the way it is, even though my grandparents were a little iffy. My Greek grandparents, little iffy in the English. We are not a country like France Canada that has French and English, or Belgium, or Ukraine, frankly, where Russian and Ukrainian were both. There were regions of the country, or there are, that speak Russian, regions that speak Ukrainian. My friend Vlad, who we talk about a lot, who we have on the show, was brought up in Kharkiv, in northeastern Ukraine. His mother tongue is Russian. He had to learn Ukrainian to go to high school because his high school exams were going to be in Ukrainian. He's Ukrainian. And he had to learn Ukrainian.
Yeah, Russian took over.
But he's Ukrainian.
It's so funny to me when the argument is that we were like pushing out Russian or like whatever. Well, first of all, I mean, it's not our language. What the fuck? But second of all, Russian was pushing out Ukrainian. It was incredibly, like, I would be going to Zaporizhia or other cities and I'd be speaking Ukrainian because I'm from Lviv, and people would be telling me stuff like speak the normal language, aka Russian.
Right.
There was this propaganda that if you don't speak Russian, you're not going to get a good job, or you're like a redneck.
Right.
Because obviously it's better in Russia.
But weren't you the one telling us, though, that now this is a different question, that when you were growing up there, or was it you or Vlad telling me that there was it must have been you, because Vlad is Russian speaking, that you got a little bit of shit, even in Kyiv, you said at the Starbucks, you got a little bit of shit from somebody once for speaking Ukrainian and she was speaking Russian or something?
No, asked, like, can we have a Kyiv cake? And she was like speaking Russian, and she was like, I don't have a Kyiv cake, I have a Kyiv cake.
Ooh. So correcting, saying we pronounce it the Russian way, not the Ukrainian way, even though, of course, she's Ukrainian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was told, again, this may not have been you, but some Ukrainian friends were telling me that growing up, it was considered among friends, they would often speak Russian because it was considered low class or hillbilly to speak Ukrainian. So ironically, in Ukraine, it's not that the Russian speakers thought they were Russian, but the Russian speakers often thought they were better, which is funny because the argument that the pro-Russian people make in the West is, oh, those Ukrainians were always oppressing the Russian speakers. Actually, the Russian speakers kind of had the dominant side because they were considered the educated. In parts of the country, they were considered the educated people. They spoke the good language, you know.
Yeah, also, like, I mean, so I went to school in Lviv. And I spoke fluent Russian because my mom is a Russian speaker, but my dad is a Ukrainian speaker. And I grew up in a Ukrainian-speaking city, and so I could speak Russian, and I could not only speak Russian, but I spoke Russian without a Ukrainian accent. We have a very particular accent in Russian in Ukraine, and I thought I was so much better than everyone else when I was, like, in middle school.
Right.
Well, my hitting,
funny.
It's an inhaler.
Oh, because your bronchitis, yeah. I always get hyper when I do mine. People laugh. They're like, oh, God, he did his inhaler. Because then I'm like, anyways, but my point is that I think if you're from a country that has one language like America does, really, even though obviously we got a lot of Spanish speakers, it's hard. It frankly is still hard for me to understand French Canadians and thinking of them as being as Canadian as English speaking Canadians. I just naturally want to imagine them being independent because it just seems weird. So that is the problem that a lot of us have with Ukraine, is it just doesn't kind of make sense that if one part speaks Russian, maybe they are more Russian, we would think, because it doesn't make sense to us that they don't speak the national language.
It's imperialism, because like it's not, I think in Canada, it's the French moved to a territory that was well, I mean, it was inhabited, but like we're not gonna get into that right now.
Yeah.
But basically, like the language is French is because the French settled there, right? Here, the language is Ukrainian, and the Russian language literally is only there because people who spoke Ukrainian were being killed off for speaking it.
Right.
But okay, John, I need to go.
That's okay. It's 2:30. Yep. Go to bed. Take your dog out. Haha. I'm jealous. Yulia's got 1.5 thousand followers. I've only got 600 viewers. I mean, this late. Damn. She's so popular.
No, it's not viewers. It's the gift thing, I think.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, damn, I didn't know. I thought maybe people can tune in via your site and my site. Although I guess it probably does. On your profile, it should have the little thing that you're live, or does it not? I never quite know how that works.
I don't know either.
So, okay, she's going to hang up in a second, but somebody go and check her profile just because I'm curious if it shows that she's live or not. In any case, thank you for joining us. It does show you're live. Okay, that's what I thought. That would although TikTok, that would make sense, but it's TikTok. All right, you go good night. And guys, I'm going to say good night too, because we've been doing this for an hour and 25 minutes. So Julia, thank you for joining us from Ukraine. Thank you, Jeff and Jocelyn. Thank you for all the gifts, by the way, guys. We did see them flying in, but we were in the middle of talking, so we didn't thank most of you. So thank you. And tomorrow morning, I've got my coffee talk with the paid monthly subscribers. So anybody who's got SNN next to their name on TikTok, YouTubers, you know who you guys are, the green ones, Discord, etc. I will be on Discord, TikTok, and YouTube live at 11 a.m. for the paid monthly subscribers. So join us for our hangout there. And anyway, have a good night. Thanks for coming by or for adding some value tonight. All right, see you, Julia. All right, bye-bye.
I'm so happy to see you. Let's get talk soon again.
Okay.
Bye, John.
All right, everybody else, I'm going to sign off too, since we've been doing almost an hour and a half. So, all right. Oh, good. Oh, people are donating. Good. Yeah. Last little question too. Right. So Syndicate's raising money. As I said, we're raising some money to buy gifts for Ukrainian kids for Christmas, kids who don't have money, basically. And Syndicate set up a website. Actually, I'll put my microphone back on normal. Syndicate set up a website at secretsantaforukraine.com. And he and his wife are collecting the funds, and they're going to buy gifts and then giving it to a Ukrainian charity. Thank you, Red, for the gift there. They're going to be giving money. They're going to be buying the gifts and dropping the gifts off at a Ukrainian charity in Amsterdam. So if you want to help, please do. It's Secret Santa for Ukraine, and there's many different ways to contribute. 100% of the money will be going to buy gifts for the kids. Syndicate's not taking any, but Syndicate's one of our longtime friends and moderators here, a member of our community, etc. So he and his wife, Michaela, have volunteered to go buy the gifts and stuff. So if you can help, check it out. Secret Santa for Ukraine. All right, guys, thank you for the gifts. Thank you, Red and Sue. And I will see the rest of you subscribers tomorrow morning. And they themselves sponsored 8 of the kids. So if you guys can help, please do. Thank you, Jeremy. Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you Monday. We do the show for free Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. And like I said, I do kind of the special shows occasionally for subscribers to thank you all. But otherwise, I'm here Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock Eastern time, U.S. Tomorrow morning's 11 a.m., Franny. So 11 a.m. Washington, D.C., New York City, East Coast, U.S. time. All right? All right, guys. Have a good night. See you all tomorrow. Well, see a bunch of you tomorrow. Maybe not all of you. All right. See you guys.